Hello. All right. I need to get to the metaverse if I'm the overlord there. So nice to see you guys and welcome everyone to the last session of Waypoint. It's my distinct pleasure to host a discussion with several of our executives and some of our customers. Really, these are folks who have a long history of driving technology adoption in their organizations and innovation. And so it should be a really, really good discussion. We'll get started with a few minutes of introductions and then get right into it. We will, in the discussion, we'll talk about some of the big challenges facing construction, where technology fits, a little bit about culture, and then we'll end with a discussion on what are one or two things that folks can do today to get started on this journey. So with that, Andrew, can I ask you to introduce yourself real quickly? Not hearing them.
The audio, we're not getting any audio from.
Right.
Okay, Robert, we're going to transition back to you.
Okay.
In 3, 2.
All right, we had no audio from Andrew. I want to open that's on your side, Andrew, if you're muted. Why don't we go ahead and have Rick introduce yourself?
Sure, can you hear me?
We can.
All right. My name is Rick Kahn. I am currently the Chief Innovation Officer over at STO Building Group. It's a large construction management firm based out of New York City. And, my role is really around developing that innovation of culture, kind of really investing in our people and finding the right technologies that's going to advance how we work.
Wonderful. All right, Carl, how about we go with you next?
Great. Hopefully, can you hear me okay?
We got you.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, Carl McFarland with Kitchell Contractors. I am a market executive there and support our group that we call Operations Technologies, and also our new venture investments. We'll talk a little bit later about some of those things. 27 years with an operational background and a passion for tech, and we're doing a lot of great things with OpenSpace, and it's been a great partnership for us, and we're looking forward to what's on the horizon.
Great, thank you. Eleftherios, you want to jump in there? Eleftherios, can you hear us?
Me.
There you go. Got it. Okay,
my name is Eleftherios Pitas. I'm with Tishman Speyer. Yep. Tishman Speyer is a leading international real estate developer, owner and manager. We working in New York City on some of our ground up construction, as well as sort of looking at various construction technologies and how they can improve our workflows. Civil engineer by background, but somehow ended up here. And been using OpenSpace, tried it out on one project at the tail end and fell in love with it and had to use it on the next one, and been a big fan ever since.
All right, great, thank you. And Andrew, let's get back to you and see if this works this time.
All right, can you hear me now?
We got it, yep.
All right. Andrew Loomis, Manager of Underwriting Innovation at Liberty Mutual. My current role, I'm exploring emerging tech trends in a variety of industries with a heavy focus in the construction space. Construction liability underwriter by trade, both in the field and home office. Also directed innovation efforts at Liberty Mutual and previously at Ironshore. In exploring construction tech, job site imagery is a major area that we're focusing on, with OpenSpace being one of the standout companies we've engaged with.
I saved Phil for last because with his hair and his accent, you just can't follow Phil. So go ahead, Phil. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. I just moved the camera because I realized my face was half covered up. Maybe that's a good thing. Phil Lawson, Shank's Chief Innovation and Technology Officer at Aligned. We're a data center design build operator. We're building data centers all over the place really quickly. We can get into that later. I've been in the industry, or this generic industry, for more years than I care to remember. I had probably more hair and it was a little colored when I started. But right now my role is to look at the next trends, the next technology, to integrate that into how we build and operate our business, and sharing key data points real time with our clients is becoming just table stakes. So platforms like OpenSpace have just been tremendous for us to adopt and to integrate into other systems that we're playing with.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and it's just a really great group of folks here. We got sort of larger GCs, we got larger owners, we got some really innovative kind of from Phil's side, owner, builder, operator, and then Elisarios, who's really out there in the field making things happen. So it's a great group of folks. You know, we all had kind of pre-calls to kind of get aligned on some of the topics. And the key topic here is there's a lot of change happening, and how is technology affecting that? And is it driving it, or is it sort of reacting to it? And, you know, everyone I talked to said, you know, there's not just a lot of change happening, it's sort of kind of generational change, or this is maybe the time in the industry where this is the largest amount of change happening. I think Kelsey said it as sort of a golden age of construction tech. So the key topic, or the main topic that came out of this, or the headline topic, was just operating in a time of extreme change. So I want to start with that. And Carl, can you kind of get us started on some of the thoughts you had on your sort of upcoming or current planning process?
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. You know, we were having a discussion as we're going into 2022, our leadership team talking about strategic planning, and, you know, really where we concluded was that we believe this is one of the most significant moments in our organization in probably the last 50 years. And I think this might apply to others in our industry. And, you know, why do I say that? Because what you just talked about, the transformation's happening in every industry, and we're not alone. But I think when I look back over my career and you know, towards the latter part, being involved in previous strategic planning, or even just your annual business planning, for lack of a better phrase, it was business as usual, and we relied on our past experience. I think what leaders are going to be challenged with today is the fact that when we look at business analytics, IoT, industrialized construction, you know, all these other things that are being driven by digitization, we can, as leaders, go back and look at the playbook and say, oh, okay, this is the roadmap to the future. So, you know, really our legacy as leaders now, when we kind of leave our stamp, is, did we have the ability to make that cultural transformation like Rick's talking about, and really, you know, bring together a diverse workforce that brings together ideas to make this change.
Excellent, thank you. And so with that, Rick, I mean, I think I'll hand it over to you. I mean, this is kind of your role now at STO Building Group to really make this transition. So what are the big changes or big forces you see kind of impacting the industry today that might be new or different from before?
Yeah, well, you know, there's a quote that I love, and it says, and it goes like this. It says, we are experiencing the slowest rate of change that we will ever experience in our lifetime. And that's just not for construction. And what's really interesting is we're having all these external forces come into the AEC environment, whether that's big tech customers, building hyperscale data centers and creating cooperation between the trade contractors, so they're building networks to share and get better together. We're seeing customers ask for not just net zero or carbon neutral, they're looking for net positive, giving back to the environment. You know, we're looking at energy performance and urbanization, and then you can layer on all the technology, and then supported by the, you know, multiple billions of dollars being poured into the industry from a venture capital perspective. So all these things are happening, and we are still required to build on time and on budget, and it's pretty amazing, you know. So I'm going to keep going back to the culture and the people standpoint, but if we're not preparing our people for the future, then we will not be relevant.
Yes, yeah. At the end of the day, it comes down to people building buildings, right? So it's got to be the core. So Andrew, you kind of have a different perspective on this, coming from the insurance industry. But you know, what are the forces or what are the changes you see impacting the industry, and what should we all be aware of?
Yeah, so there's a few major trends out there. The obvious one is digitalization. It's a huge trend. We see that large companies have the resources to drive it. They have multiple projects, they have clout with suppliers, and those small initial gains matter. They're scalable. When we're looking at projects that are based on thin margins, if you're able to control the margin, you can make more money there. Larger companies have the ability to do that. We do see a challenge with that in the middle market space. Some of that tech can't yet scale down, but we feel that many of these mid-market companies could benefit the most from digitalization, because we see tech can be a strong enabler of safety and risk culture. A couple other trends: resiliency is huge. For those of you that maybe play hockey, I don't, but I just know the idioms surrounding it. But skate to where the puck will be, not where it is now. Somewhere to build to where we think the climate may be in terms of resiliency. Huge impacts on longer term risk and insurability. I'd highlight that in general, it's seen that a dollar investment in hardened assets tends to yield a $4 return. So if the environment is hardened through investments like these, then the risk lessens, total cost of risk lessens as well. And then finally, kind of similar to what Rick was mentioning, looking at a next generation workforce, it's more than just physical health. It's more than just the health of the body. It's also the health of the mind. We see some issues with substance misuse. We want employees and workers to be healthy and safe. We're a large comp carrier. These areas are extremely important to us.
Fascinating. Yeah, so some of the stuff you don't always think about, like, the environment's going to be very different in 50 years in the lifetime of a building, and it's not just keeping someone from slip, trip, fall, it's actually having them be a healthy person. It's fascinating stuff. So Phil, like I said earlier in the intro, you kind of see it from all angles. You're living at hyperspeed, hyperscale every day, and in a way I almost feel like you're living in the future on some of the stuff that you're seeing. So could you kind of give us an idea of what you see and what some of the forces are, and also just procedurally or tactically, you were a little low last time when you talked, so if you could speak up a little bit, that would be helpful.
Okay, I'll turn it up a wee bit. How's that? Is that better?
That's perfect, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so to follow on from Andrew, digitization, everything is digitized. We live in a totally connected world, people and things. We've talked about IoT for a long time, but all of that data and information goes back to data centers. So what we thought of in the past, those old data centers, which were really just an adaptation of the computer rooms that housed mini and mainframes, that's wholly shifted now. There's greenfield out in where there's nothing at all, and there's brownfield transitioning of existing structures, but that's just going on at such a pace. And we're seeing we're building data centers everywhere, and we're seeing our competitors do the same, and also our clients, the hyperscalers, they're building everywhere. And you probably hear a lot of things about the edge. There's a lot of talk about the edge, and people think of that as a small thing, but really the edge is just the lowest latency point between a service and the thing that's using that service. So if it's a cell phone, it's probably at the base of a tower. If it's you're streaming Netflix, then it'll be somewhere near the cable head end. And those services need to be in close proximity to that handoff. And so you're going to see different sizes of buildings, different types of devices being put out there, maybe the size of a fridge down the side of a street. But data centers are everywhere. They're just going to be part of the landscape. And all of that, to build those quickly, we need to have good optics, good control, good visibility. And we're finding more and more that we're needing to be very open with our clients and showing them exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it real time, or as near to real time as possible.
Fascinating. So Eleftherios, you've been a PM and a PX on several mega projects right now, a monster mega project in New York City. From where you sit, what are you seeing as some of the things that sort of are either you're excited about or some of the changes that are buffeting you on the project level?
So sustainability is a common topic, and it definitely has always been a focus for Tishman Speyer, but it's definitely, I'd say, picked up steam and picked up focus, and that's at sort of all stakeholders for a project, from the investor who's putting money into a project and wants to know that their investment is a responsible one, to the local community members who want to know that the building you're putting in their neighborhood is going to be resilient and how will it fare in a 100-year storm, to the insurance carriers who obviously are underwriting these buildings, these policies, and even to the tenants who are going to rent in our buildings, who want to know that they're renting in a socially responsible designed and constructed building. And obviously there's impacts for everyone on the bottom line. So there, it is a big focus. I think Tishman Speyer also recently announced we're committing to net zero carbon emissions in our portfolio by 2050. So it's definitely that line Andrew brought about go where the puck is going to be. I think it's a good one.
Excellent. So this is titled tech-enabled construction. So clearly technology is core to what we're talking about today. So I want to switch gears now and just get your thoughts on where does technology fit in this whole sort of progression or evolution that we're all part of. Is it driving it? Is it something that you use to adapt to it? So again, staying with you, Eleftherios, like I said, you're on the front lines. You're using this stuff every day. The stuff that you decide to invest in has to work and really provide value for your team. And so what technologies do you rely on and what are you seeing impacting your jobs on a day-to-day basis?
So a lot of the stuff is really focused on workflow management and anything that could sort of house and share a lot of data information. We work on projects with, I want to say more than dozens of team members, but team members, hundreds of team members all over the country, in Canada. And so you want to be able to share information fast, rapidly. We want to empower people to be able to get information on their own. So whether that's drawings, specs, RFI submittals, photos, live photos of what the job site looks like, our ability to have it currently siloed, but single sources of truth for all this information is really critical to us to be able to make quick decisions on projects, to be able to just have a single source of truth to show, what are we building, what should we build, and what will it look like.
Nice. And then Rick, how about you for on your jobs or in your role now, new role, kind of overseeing and kind of getting a new perspective? What are some of the technologies you're most excited about and are investing in? Oh, I think you're frozen. So I'll move on. Carl, how about you? What are you guys working on, investing in? What are you excited about from the technology side?
Yeah, well, today, Robert, I think it's easy to get excited about a lot of things. And obviously, transparency is a big one. It drives accountability. It's doing a lot of things for our business, and OpenSpace plays a key role for us there. We are very bullish on offsite prefab, or I think what's being commonly used now as industrialized construction. We have made big investments in a company in Arizona, and really it solves some of the key pain points that we're seeing in the industry. And that's everything from labor shortage to supply chain. And, those are two things that during my career, we've been talking about for the better part of 10 years. And, our definition of insanity is something that we've been living because we've been trying the same things over and over. And, when you look at prefab, it's really enabled by technology. Prefab it has been around for a long time, but industrialized construction and the true vision of that can only be realized with tech. Just to give you an example of labor efficiency, the facility in Arizona has roughly 35 tradespeople, and they produce up to 4 times as much building exterior enclosure as the same amount of people on a job site, except they're working in a controlled environment. No one is on scaffolding. The safety, quality, everything else is exceptional. And then out of those 35 trades, only 60% of them are coming from the industry. So the other 40% are coming from outside the industry. Their scale up and onboarding is quick. In fact, some of our highest performers in that business are 2 females that came from outside the industry and are having a huge impact. So, we're really bullish on that. And we believe kind of what online is to retail and what it's done to retail, offsite prefab can do for our industry with the right tech enablement.
Yeah. And the right people leading it, like a, established, experienced construction company to sort of make all the investments work out, unlike some others that have been out there. I think Rick's still frozen from what I can see. So Andrew, where does, you guys are an insurance company, right? So, and based in Connecticut, and where does, or you're based in the Boston area, but where does technology fit in your strategy and where in Liberty Mutual strategy in general?
Yeah, so we're always looking out for our client. We want to be there for them today and help them plan for tomorrow. And we want to be that strategic partners in risk management. So we view ourselves as, we're more than just a risk transfer company. We're a true risk management company. And technology helps us enable that. So we need to have a deep understanding of the tech to know that it will benefit our clients. So like one thing we see is that there are some tech companies out there that they got great marketing teams. They can really talk the talk, but when it comes to walking the walk, not many do as good of a job truly credentialing and showing the value that they produce. Some of this tech needs to be vetted to separate the claims from the true benefits. Liberty Mutual has a very long history of research and development. We like to partner and have partnered in the development of evidence-based solutions. We think these partnerships will likely generate more value than what can even be talked about, and you'll have the evidence to prove it. So we approach this space very deliberately. Best way for us is to partner with our clients and work with tech companies like yourselves to unlock the most value.
Nice. So Rick, I think you're back. I thought you were just sitting very still and stoically, but you were actually frozen. So what are some of the technologies that you're keeping an eye on and are investing in at STO? Oh, no, you're muted.
Sorry about that. All right,
You're
the
unmuted.
tech company always messes up. So one of the things that I'm really excited about is the promise of IoT for construction. We are so focused on capturing lagging indicators in the field. We're trying to capture some leading indicators, but the reality is, because the humans are the ones capturing the data manually and digitizing it, we will never really get to a set of leading or predictive indicators if we continue that process. So when I think about IoT and putting sensors on the job sites, whether it's on people, material, equipment, tools, we're going to be able to automate the data capture. And that's when AI and machine learning and all these, fancy words really start to come into play. And I think, IoT is a promise for 5 to 10 years away, right? It's not something that is really happening right now, but we're starting to see companies really target some of these IoT solutions right now. So, the trend is happening, and that's a big focus of mine.
Nice. All right, finally, Phil, I know, tech is sort of what you guys do, both your customers and, core to your value proposition. But what are you looking at, and what investments are you making, and where do you see tech fitting into this?
So obviously, as you say, tech is everything that we do. We maintain enormous amounts of infrastructure, and all of those discrete components have to be monitored all the time. So we're constantly pulling that data back, millions of points of data into a data lake that we then just augment. We have a data marts. We do all sorts of analysis on it. I hesitate to use the word digital twin because we're not really quite there yet. But everything that we have, we're using a particular type of QR code that not only gives us the ability to understand what that equipment is, its value, when it went into service, its last point of maintenance, but also who it's servicing, what clients are it servicing, where it's deriving its energy, either its cooling or its energy upstream. So when we have to come to do maintenance, we can look at it and say, we need to inform our client, or we're in a blackout period because of the time of year for that particular client. It just, all of this data makes our operations team much more effective. And what we're doing now is taking the raw raw information that we're capturing real time, all the scanning that we're doing, and we're pulling that in and blending that together. So we're playing around with augmented reality, so that we'll be able to, in time, not yet, but in time, as our operations team go up to a piece of equipment or a part of a building, they can start looking backwards and forwards in time and seeing what's behind the walls, where the conduits go, what that service is. So it just makes them much, much more productive. So again, we're not looking to, there's lots of talk about, that some of our competitors are putting in robots to do things, which are interesting. They're a bit gimmicky, but we're actually augmenting our workforce to be much more productive and have much more data at their fingertips. So all of these tools, they just, that's the way of the future. That's the way we have to operate. And it gives us a huge competitive edge when we can explore and share those data streams with our clients, and they can see exactly what we're doing when we're doing it.
Yeah, that's a little bit about why I really feel like Phil's living in the future here. It's just all the data and all the sharing and all that. So that kind of covers the sort of the tech stuff. I think the next thing, and you heard everyone say it already, is that all of this is sort of one hand clapping if you can't get the culture to support it, or if technology doesn't actually support the cultural change that you want in your organization. So Andrew, when we were talking about this, you brought something up, and I think you might have even mentioned it in your intro, is that you really see technology as an enabler of culture. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so we know that that companies want to have strong safety and risk cultures, but they may not really know where to start. Top companies likely have a competitive advantage for figuring that out early. So it's looking at that middle market space. If you don't have that culture, can you use tech to enable that? So that's how we view tech. We see training capabilities, being able to show insights, showing that data and tech is our friend. It's not Big Brother. I think a good example of this is just telematics in general. We've sometimes have seen companies kind of just throw telematics as a solution, but if you don't have culture, it's almost a lost cause. However, if you can look at the technology and say, we want to have a safety culture, we want to have a proper risk culture, we're going to use this technology to talk to our employees about it. We're going to enable it. We're going to make it easier to have these discussions about safety and risk, and to me, that shows that you're using the tech to enable that, rather than just kind of throwing tech at the problem and expecting it to be a solution. And one last thought here, there's multiple benefits that tech can unlock. So one thing that we're exploring is, can construction tech improve scheduling and safety? That leads to improved employee retention and presenteeism by making work just more manageable and safe. I know, right. in talking about culture, it could help solve the labor shortage. Workers want a place that values them as people and takes initiatives to train them, keep them safe, gives them purpose. Tech can unlock all that. Fascinating.
So following up on that, so Phil, you had mentioned that you guys use tech, specifically OpenSpace, actually, to help drive a culture of safety. Can you fill us in on that a little bit?
Yes. So our parent company, Macquarie, it's one of the, depending on who they bought and sold, they're either the largest or the second largest private equity firm. And obviously, data centers are an interesting asset class. There's a lot of PE money coming into our industry. Anyway, Macquarie are, I was going to say maniacal, but that's probably the wrong thing to say because this is being recorded. But they're very, very focused on environmental sustainability and safety. So much so, if anyone gets hurt on a job site, the chairman of our board has to inform the CEO of the whole company within 12 hours. And if someone were horribly to lose their life, which hasn't happened, he'd have to be on a plane within 24 hours and present to the whole board as to what's going on, lessons learned, what we're going to do about it. So we've been using the scanning every day from OpenSpace with our safety officers. Now, as we have multiple teams, we have teams building the product, the data centers, they have subs and contractors and whatever. So they have people on site, and we've been putting our operations people on site as well, so they can see what's going on and just absorb and subsume the building as it goes live. But now we're finding that our security officers are actually looking at the scans every day and checking up on things. We found a couple of instances where the appropriate safety tape wasn't in place, and they actually put just a lockdown on the build, just there and then, because they were able to see it. So again, everything we work everything open kimono, everything's visible to everyone in our company. We don't believe in stovepipes. We have the ability to stop anything at any given time, and just these sort of tools, the ability to virtually walk around the site, within hours of when it was scanned, is proving invaluable to us, just to keep our productivity high, our people safe, and just the focus on doing the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, that's why we build this stuff, right? So those moments can happen. Carl, kind of switching gears a little bit, but you brought up the importance of diversity, especially if we're going to make these big changes. That we got to bring in new viewpoints. What did you mean by that, and how are you guys looking at that?
Yeah, I think over the last 18 months, we've seen some, historic events, whether it's COVID or social unrest. And I think, as unfortunate as some of the tragedies were or have been, they've reshaped our industry, and not just technology, but this much needed heightened awareness of diversity and inclusion. In fact, we just celebrated kind of the inaugural Construction Inclusion Week last month, and I think that's great for our industry. Not only is it the right thing to do, I guess the why behind it, but in my opinion, it's going to be a fundamental requirement of every business moving forward. And that's because we go back to this idea of culture first, process second, tech third. And I know everyone on this call has experienced what it's like to try and deploy something new and get people to believe in it. And without diversity, whether that's people coming from different industries or different cultures or different backgrounds, the ability to come in and brainstorm about that new path moving forward can't be done with old minds, tired minds that are thinking about what worked in the past. And that diversity, to me, is absolutely fundamental moving forward.
Yeah, which also impacts your recruiting and sort of how you get out there, and some of the discussion you had about your prefab as well.
Yeah,
okay, we are
absolutely.
running, these discussions are great. We're running a little behind, so I'm going to jump around just a touch here. But Eleutheros, we talked about some of the stuff you're doing on your job in New York, and I wanted you to just kind of highlight that, because I think this is some really interesting specifics on what you can do to kind of bring culture and workplace to a job site.
Sure. So anyone familiar with construction sites knows they're not necessarily the most glamorous workplaces, and that's what they are. It's a workplace for the the unions that are coming to work on our job sites every day. So in collaboration with Turner, and I do want to recognize they were a good partner on this project with us, we wanted to provide a good work environment for the men and women that are building our buildings. And some of that goes as something as simple as bathrooms. So I don't want to describe what a typical construction bathroom looks like, but we bought fully pre-built bathrooms, rigged them up with the crane. They have plumbing, heat in the winter, like they're warm heated stalls. They're cleaned 2 or 3 times a week, and that's something that is a nice. I want to say a nice habit. It should be the norm on our sites. Like the rest of us who come to offices and have some of these. I use the term amenities, but some of these basic services, it makes a difference. But we took it further. We started offering haircuts and massages to the workers, which is something that Tishman Speyer was originally offering as an amenity to our commercial office tenants, but we adapted for the construction site. We also we have events. We one day brought a golf simulator and actually had it running 8 hours a day, and it was used pretty much every minute of the day. So people got to talk and try out something they had not done before. So we're trying to bring this mindset of this is really a work. We want you to come back here and enjoy your work, take pride in your work. And can I prove that it definitely gets us, let's say, the best of the best? I can't necessarily prove that, but I will say we were shut down for 3 months because of COVID. And once we were reopened, we did not have trouble getting back to our sort of pre-shutdown workforce levels. So I definitely think it improved morale and sort of a good environment for the men and women who are building.
Yeah, I mean, and why not, right? Why not, treat them like the valued employees that they are? Just because they're not in an office, they still get, treated well and have good amenities. So I'm going to switch now to a topic that's near and dear to our heart, and you guys have said it a few times. So it's really, we think we're an enabler of transparency, and there's transparency. I mean, it's sort of the the obvious, like we provide ways for you to see things, but we also think that we provide a single source of truth. We provide the ability to have more transparency on the job site so that there's less arguing and there's more building. So, Rick, I'm going to turn to you. You mentioned earlier your really interest in IoT, and that might be 5 years away, but still the interest in IoT and really instrumenting things. What does that do for you, and how does that translate into transparency for your projects, and kind of what does that mean for the impact or the outcomes?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the leading causes of margin erosion for construction field teams is resource management, right? Managing people, equipment, tools, material. And from a logistics perspective, IoT is going to be able to allow us to put sensors on material, tools, people, whatnot, to be able to understand where they are, which can tie in. For instance, let's talk about people, right? If you start putting sensors on people that, I know it's kind of Big Brother-ish, but the reality is this is really for safety, right? And the sensors can track the gait of a person, which is like your fingerprint, can basically capture information. So this way we can be proactive and prescriptive instead of like reactive, right? So we want to, did I say that right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the I guess the big picture would be for us to get to prescriptive and predictive analytic state through the automated data capture through IoT. There's so many examples I can provide, but does that kind of provide enough flavor?
Yeah, and then what does that do for you to provide that sort of data and that sort of visibility into the project? What's the business value?
The business value is increased margins, because right. The IoT is going to address those resource management challenges. So it's recapturing the margin. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Phil. The speed and sort of openness that you operate in on a day-to-day basis is just mind-boggling. Can you share a bit about what it's like to build in this world of sort of radical transparency and openness with your clients?
Yeah, so for the last year or two, or maybe the last 4 years or so, we've had to have basically open book with our largest clients. So they know the cost of our build process and our margins, and that's fully acceptable to them. But now we're having to be even more than that. We're having to give them access to the build process. We have a client, and I won't mention any more than the fact that we have a client that every day they want to have photos taken by their general contractor of the work that was completed that day. So OpenSpace has replaced that, which is great. But everything we do, we're seen as an extension now to the largest data center users on the planet. So they want to see not only the system's active and their systems are linked to ours, but they want to see on a regular basis to the speed and build of what's going on, because they're under extreme pressure to deliver product in a new market, and without our platform, they can't put in their gear, they can't load their services. So speed to market's crucial. And interestingly, Rick was saying about IoT. Last year, we had one of our large builds in North Virginia. We had one day, I think there's nearly 1,000 trades on site. And obviously COVID was an issue. So everyone had an ID tag on them, an RFID tag, and we were doing contact tracing. So if one of the team, then they work in teams of 3, if one of them fell sick, the other 2 went immediately to get tested. But then we did a contact trace around the building as to where they'd been, which was very, very useful. But everything's just about visibility. It's openness, sharing. Building data centers and most buildings, it's not rocket science, so everyone can work out how much it costs, but it's delivering it on time, on budget. I mean, ultimately, our goal, our business is delivering megawatts to square feet and doing it the most efficient and cost-effective manner possible.
Thank you. So, Andrew, what does transparency mean for your business and really, how you underwrite and evaluate companies? What does that look like? Or how does that help you?
Yeah, so let's look at job site transparency, and we know that that single source of truth has been brought up a lot. These devices collect data, but what are you actually really doing with it? You need that strong process to act on it to truly manage the risk. So from these devices, you collect information, you want to analyze what you see, develop action plans, you take the action, hopefully you see results, and you start that cycle all over again. That's huge for us as an insurance company. We want to help our clients have a greater level of success in using this tech, and we'll help them avoid, retain, and reduce risk there. So with this greater transparency, we can focus on where we could bring the most value in terms of this risk. If we notice similar issues at multiple job sites, we can provide training. So all this transparency really helps us be a better, closer strategic partner, and do it very efficiently. We're helping our clients use data in the most beneficial way.
Yeah, thank you. So Carl, when we talked, you were excited about getting all these silos kind of connected, and the transparency that brings, just simply the connectivity of it all. What does that mean for the industry? Or, it wasn't for Kitchell, but what does it mean for the industry to have that sort of integration and connectivity?
Yeah, one word comes to mind when I think of that, and that is certainty. I mean, when I think of our clients and I listen to Phil, certainty. And right now, when you think of our industry, it's exactly the opposite. It's uncertainty, right? Uncertainty about labor, uncertainty about supply chain, uncertainty about costs and schedule and quality. What we have started to see, and we're just in the infancy of combining and having all of this data from various different things, from sales all the way down through to warranty items, is there are relationships and there are hidden answers in that data. And, we're starting to stitch together things that maybe, we didn't believe before were necessarily truths. And so, in safety, for example, we're looking at some of our smaller jobs and starting to focus on those, because some of those metrics, as far as number of observations identified per staff hours or overtime hours that are coming from payroll on management teams, are helping us to say, well, wait a minute, I know that's a $4 million job, but we're seeing exposure based on oversight and number of observations they're identifying, as well as combining that with project photo data, to really give us answers that we would have never had before, because we simply prioritize the larger jobs with what we believe to be higher risk.
Yeah, fascinating. I wonder if certainty is really the benefit of transparency. I like that really what your clients want is certainty. They want to know when something's going to be done, how much it's going to cost, all of those things. And sort of tying it all together gives you that. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up with, again, we talked about this, just 1 to 2 quick things, quick recommendations for folks. You guys are in sort of, privilege is not the right word, you've earned it, but you're in a position of really, I think, being on the forefront of this and having, either the budget or the company support or whatever to really drive innovation. Not everyone's in that same position, but everyone can do something to get started on this. So I just wanted to kind of get, close out with 1 to 2 things that you guys would recommend any builder does today to get started. So Rick, I'll start with you. What would you say is just, the must-haves today for anybody?
Yeah, I would say that start your digital transformation journey. Just start. I think the future relies on a digitized world. We talk about the broken supply chain. If we're going to integrate the supply chain and better, have buying power and, streamline downstream workflows, we are going to need a digital fabric, and we don't have that yet because there's so many processes that are still paper or manual based in the field. So it's, we really need to understand it from that level.
Phil, what about you?
I think the same. It's sharing the data, it's openness. So we need real-time as-builts as they're being built, frankly. One of the issues I had in the past was as-builts were just atrocious, and I tried all sorts of different tools. But having the ability to link your BIM to the scan and actually catch gaps real-time is proving invaluable in terms of cost and speed to market for us.
Okay, so a specific thing there is start digitizing, start doing capture for
Exactly.
for projects?
And then share.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't want to have a meeting every day and say, okay, what didn't you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? We want to be much more engaged in this is what you need to be doing today.
Yeah, kind of real-time alignment.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
Eleutherios, what would you suggest someone start doing today?
I would say definitely lean into some of these digitally transformative technologies, and not just what's currently out there as more mainstream, but also looking at the emerging tech and what could plant the seeds for a great technology in a couple of years. And if your organization maybe doesn't have the resources to dedicate a unique person to the task of researching R&D technologies, maybe leverage young talent that you have within the company that can do this as maybe as a side hobby, but you may see it bear fruit later on the next project or in future years.
To really invest in the next generation to have them build out the tech. Is that what I heard? Oh, it's frozen on me real quick there. Okay. Carl, how about you? What do you think is the sort of the 1 to 2 things you got to start thinking about and working on?
Yeah, I know everybody mentioned, the digital strategy piece. That is a absolute must. You need to be executing that. There's also, in my mind, a reflection of where you're at with your leadership team. And what do I mean by that? If you don't feel like the conversations you're having during business planning or strategic planning this year or next are difficult and it feels like business as usual, that is a red flag that you haven't embraced the fact that there is transformation coming. You must have these difficult conversations about how you're going to rethink your business, your people, your objectives to really align with what is inevitable, which is a Renaissance age of transformation.
Fascinating. And Andrew, we'll finish with you. What are the things 1 or 2 things folks should be thinking about today?
Yeah, I think lean into transparency with us as your partner. Transparency will help reduce the overall cost of risk, and we're strategic partners in managing risk. And I know I can't say it enough. The more we can see, the more we could be an active, engaged partner with our clients.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for this time. It's certainly been a pleasure getting to know you all a bit better. I found this very interesting, so hopefully other folks did as well. I'll end with noticing Rick's guitars back there. We are having a virtual after party that will include karaoke and will include virtual bars. So all of you are welcome to join that, and we'd love to see some of those chops, Rick. So maybe we'll see you there.
It's ukuleles, so I'll.
All right. Okay. I think we're in. Okay. So join the after party here. Rick play ukulele and Phil sing. I'm sure that's part of his repertoire.
Nice.
All right. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. Have a great evening, and thank you for the time and all the thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.